Okay. Hi, everyone. This is live from the
CCLC conference.
Yes, the Community College League of California, where Matthew Roberts, Salomon, Payson, and I just presented on the CCC Maker project and the startup process. So that's been fun. We've just got our last few attendees leaving the room right now, so I apologize for any background noise. But welcome to this week's webinar. It's great to see everyone here. Today we're joined by Karen Fraser-Middleton, our communications and marketing guru, and Michael Hoffman, our resident journalist expert from Park College. So I'm sure everyone's met Michael and Karen at various different events. So before we get to their feature, which is telling your story through blog posts, just a couple of quick announcements. And Karen's taking care of the slides today, that's great. Fantastic news from our quarterly reports. This is just the first round of metrics that we gathered from you all. We appreciate very much the prompt responses. But good news, on internships, we have 92 employers lined up. 102 students across the network are already in pre-placement training. So that's for colleges who've already started the recruiting process. The total on Makerspace usage is pretty extraordinary. We already have 2,500 students for 7,800 hours of making and 105 engagement activities across the 24 colleges. So that's fabulous. We're seeing an impact on curriculum already with 18 advisory meetings and 58 courses having access to the Makerspace, so using the Makerspace actively. So there's some great stuff happening there. The Kumu mapping and ecosystems have grown, and we also have a record of 49 different professional development activities. So you guys are amazing. It's already looking like a very, very busy, active, productive program. So thanks very much. You guys are doing great. Once again, another plug for Workplace. Please get on Workplace as soon as you can. Payson just posted a fabulous video the other day of your ShopBot making your Makerspace furniture, the machine that builds itself.
And anybody that's interested, I have those files written out. If you have a ShopBot, OpenDesk is a design, open source design company that'll design furniture and then make those drawings available. So you can create the space with the space. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Also, I posted a video on culinary in the so 3D printing molds for cakes and sculptural art, edible sculpture. I also posted about the tech shop going bankrupt. So that's an interesting article you guys might want to read. And I reached out to a friend of mine, connected me with the tech shop trustees' email contact, and potentially looking to hopefully connect with them and get some of their educational material on training and workflow solutions for how they handled workflow, some do's and don'ts, and potentially also acquiring equipment when they liquidize. So look for that if that connection actually pans out, hopefully.
And remember, it tells us about the importance of thinking about the sustainability of your project right from day one. Mm-hmm. So there we go. Another quick reminder, thank you to everyone who's filled out the academic calendar telling us when your spring break is next year. That's really helped us. We've set a date for our here in Southern California for March 16th at Glendale Community College. All are welcome. We'll be having one in the southern part of the state, which will be focused on work-based learning and internships. And then we'll be having another in Northern California around mid-April at Folsom Lake College, and we'll be focusing on curriculum there. And don't forget the Maker Ed convening is coming in May of 2018 as well.
Deb, it looks like there were several comments made about internships and some of the colleges wanting to share what they're learning and doing and exchange. So maybe some of those could be incorporated into that symposium, and it sounds like they want to connect prior to that as well from the chat comments.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. And I think the next.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, I think sometimes you have to advance it on the screen rather than using the arrows.
Keypad.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
we go.
I lost it. Hold on. So Deb, do you have to go back and forth?
Yeah, there's an arrow at the bottom left of the screen. Once you've shared the screen.
Oh, okay. I see it now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
risk celebrating atmosphere. Failure positive environment, maybe? I don't know. John's a.
Yeah.
I'm gonna spell. Oops, did I do something?
No, that's right. There we go.
I think that's what he's talking about.
Yeah. And we just have a couple of updates too. As we had mentioned earlier, the contracts from for the foundation for the Career Catalyst are finalised and will be coming out to you very shortly. Jen Ulrich, our administrative assistant, is working really hard on that. I also mentioned the video that Payson has run. And also, please check out on Workplace, look at the curriculum section where Sierra College has posted and Cabrillo's posted information on new curriculum that they're developing. This is one of the reasons we want you guys on Workplace, because you'll have access to all of this information as it comes in. And just a quick reminder too, on the operational level, we're fast coming up to the end of the calendar year. You really need to move on placing orders for equipment and services, because it's going to get a lot slower with your accounting department after the holidays. So remember getting your budget allocated, getting your equipment ordered, spending that money, getting those people hired. You're going to have to move on that really fast, because we're nearly, we're coming up to almost halfway through the first year. So not much time to waste. And just another quick reminder, we're hearing now people are starting to have to move money around in their categories and their budgets. That's fine. Just make sure that you are keeping us informed, and anything where you are moving more than 10% of your budget between different categories, please let us know. Salomon and or I will have to approve that so that Tony Edgerton, our accountant, can monitor that. Tony's also working on a form to help simplify that process, and you'll be receiving that shortly. Okay.
I'd like to say one thing about Workplace. It's actually, it's really easy to take videos or see what's happening in your space and just push that straight, just like Facebook. You have to go into your apps and allow Workplace to be one of your options to push. And then all you have to do is take a video or a photo, and then just push it, and it'll give you the option of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, and Workplace will be one of those. But you do have to activate that. Once it's activated, it's really easy to show everybody what's happening in your space just by a push notification.
Thanks so much, Payson. Yeah, the Workplace is really easy, and you can get the app on your phone, like he says, so you can either do it from your desktop or from your phone. But it's a wonderful way to be connecting with all the people that you met at the kickoff event, and ask questions and share ideas, talk about what's not working and what is working. It's meant to be an internal place for our whole community of practice to elevate what we're all doing and benefit from all the expertise that we have between all of the colleges. So Deb has sent out several updates with the links that you can use for your team members to join Workplace. And some of you have also received invitations directly from Workplace. So we're looking forward to seeing all of you on there and making that a vibrant internal communications tool for all of us.
Karen, I actually had a question for you about workplace. Now that I have it sending me push notifications on my phone, it's also sending me notifications via email, and it's actually kind of cluttering up my email. Is there a way to only have it send it to my phone and not to my email?
I know there's a way to turn off the notifications. I'm not sure about doing one and not the other, so I could look into that, Peyton, and then we can figure it out.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's the end of the announcements.
Okay, so well, it's my pleasure to introduce Michael Hoffman. He's been teaching journalism at Moore Park College since 2000 and has his master's from the University of Missouri in journalism, so he's got some expertise to share with us as we're writing blog posts. He and art professor Claire Sadnick are leading up the Moore Park College Makerspace effort, and so they have the same perspective as you as well because they're doing it. He has 2 decades of experience in the news business as a reporter and an editor, and has also worked on the public relations side. And he believes that we can all tell our stories. So we're looking forward to hearing some advice from Michael today. Thank you so much for joining us and being part of this panel, Michael.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much. And we do all have those stories. And the first story we'll start out with today is the story of Karen Fraser-Middleton. We've all met her at various conferences, so we know that she handles the CCC Maker branding, our strategy, and all of the content that we have on our website. The exchange we had just a minute ago about Makerspace is exactly what Karen's in the middle of. Karen and I are both graduates of UC Berkeley. She got her degree in political economy, and I have mine in political science. Her degree, her decades of experience, I think, are very apparent in the work she's doing with us in Makerspace. She's been a consultant to colleges, associations. Our president at Moore Park College has seen what she's done and told me to make sure I gave her a good shout out when I saw her next. And she believes in the same way that when we do great work, we've got to make sure that people know about it, because nobody's going to remember it unless we tell our stories. That's what we've got to do.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Michael. So let's start out by talking about what are some of the benefits of blogging about what your team and Makerspace are doing. Michael, do you have some suggestions for them?
Absolutely. I think the first thing that our blog does is it tells people in our ecosystem what's going on. We're going to use various tools here, but we want to make sure that we have a tool that's available, particularly to people outside of our small 24 college Makerspace contingent. We want to make sure that what we have in terms of blogs, we can push out and we can share with people in our community, with our advisory boards, with other members who we're trying to bring into the Makerspace. What it does is I think it raises our profile, makes us additionally credible. When I talk to my journalism students and they've got a story that they've written for me, when we publish that story on the Student Voice at Moore Park College, it just has that much more power. They can say, hey, look, this is what we're doing. This is what I've done. In the same way, we can do that with our stories at our various colleges. We want to use those blogs as a way to reach out and tell our stories. Because in the long run, when we want to make sure that we're sustainable, that we want to make sure that we can carry on this effort, we want to have the record that takes care of us there. And I think it becomes easy for us as well, because each one of the blog entries that you make becomes an entry in your journal as you're getting yourself going there. You want to make sure that you've got all of those, because when you've made a blog entry, when we're doing our quarterly reports, we go back and we see what we blogged and you say, oh yeah, I've got this. I can distill it to a paragraph or two. And all of a sudden I can move that up into my, 550 words in my quarterly report, distill it down to a couple of sentences and send it on. Blogging has the great benefit of doing a little bit of the chunks of the work. A lot of us have different work styles. This is a way that lets you tell people what's going on and you chunk out the work. You've done a little bit of here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and you can push it on to your quarterly and annual reports as well.
Great. Thanks for summarizing those benefits. And I think that the key is this project is only a couple of years long, but what you're doing is so impactful on your campuses. So the more you can tell your story about the success and the impact on students of what you're doing, the easier it is to reach out into your ecosystem and get that support from other partners that are really interested in what you're doing. So how do you get started, Michael? It's, you know, if you haven't really done blog posts, it's a little bit intimidating. So do you have some tips for us?
I think the biggest tip is not to be intimidated. Just get out there and get started. When you get onto the CCC Maker blog, you'll see all of the different posts that have been made by colleges. And sometimes, you know, we can get frozen in that moment thinking, oh gosh, this has just got to be so perfect. It's got to be so great. It's got to be, you know, amazing. When it's a couple, 3 paragraphs, maybe with a quote thrown in, and you move something forward with the information that you have. That's what you want to take, is what you have with a good photograph and move it forward. One of the tricks that I do for myself is because we can get intimidated by this. We can say, oh, this is too big. I don't have enough time to start this. I'll take my cell phone. I'll take my little cell phone, set it for 45 minutes and tell myself, in 45 minutes, I'm going to have a blog entry here. And write up those necessary paragraphs. I'll make it, push it, and put it out. And give myself an easy deadline to hit. And I think that's the key. Just get started. A good example here is one of the slide with the CCC Makerspace here at Sacramento City College. And this is just a piece of clip art from the Willy Wonka film. But the story circled back to the Oompa Loompas who are shown here. And it merely said that we're getting the space set up. My students are enthused. We're playing some interesting music. I'm having fun. And it was very basic. There was no big grand story to tell, nothing that our public relations people on campus have to be involved with. But we can do it in a simple 35, 45 minutes at the most.
That's right. So just, we're hoping that after watching this webinar, you'll feel comfortable just getting started and just starting putting stuff up, because you all have such great stories to tell.
Absolutely. And the last point, Karen, I want to make sure, keep it simple and keep it direct. I would avoid the academic jargon that we sometimes use. Just simple, direct sentences, subject, verb, object, and tell the story very, very simply. Don't worry about sounding lofty. We're not writing our theses anymore. We're not writing our dissertations. This is just a basic blog post that you want to put it out there.
Exactly. So we want to share some ideas from the field about topics that perhaps you've written blog posts about, or you've been thinking that might make a good blog post. So if you can find the little chat function on your screen, you can send that into us. And maybe while people are sending in suggestions of blog post topics, Payson, you've written several blog posts. Maybe you would want to share some of the topics that you've used. To put you on the spot.
You just got back from bathroom break, and now you're going to put me right on the spot. Yeah, so one of the things that John Gralty and I did, we each wrote a article for a Santa Cruz Tech Beat, and it's an electronic newsletter that goes out to everybody involved in our tech community. And we just reached out to them. And that was early on in the Makerspace initiative. I think there was a planning grant right around that time. We just kind of told our story to get it out to the community. As much as we thought we'd been to all these maker fairs, mini maker fairs, we'd done all these community of practice events and things, we thought everybody knew what we were doing, and we realized they really hadn't. So we kind of told our story to start with, kind of give a little history of what was happening, and then also just kind of constantly keeping up with what's happening in the space, because people are interested. People want to follow what's happening. They may not be able to get into the space every day, but they want to know what's happening in the space. So those are social media efforts. And then also just communicating with local media, besides the other bloggers in your community that might want to blog about the thing you're doing, that doubles up or triples up on the blog post, because they have a whole community of people that they're working with. Then also, like I've been reaching out to our local radio stations First thing they could say is no, right? And so most of, in Santa Cruz, we have a lot of entrepreneurism. We got a lot of tech folks. So the UCSC radio station, it's an artist blog post or artist radio. And then our local AM radio is tech based. So totally different, but both very integrated. Because we're working cross-disciplinary, we can talk to any number of different audiences about the same subject.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing all of those ideas. The radio one is a great one because you can always link up to the show that you were on, and so that makes for a really interesting blog post. So thanks for sharing that.
And Karen, I know that we have a couple of folks on from Allen Hancock. Those guys have been busy on the blog. I know College of the Canyons in Santa Clarita. Ron, Robert from Allen Hancock, but Ron from COC. You guys have been busy there as well. What are where are you getting those ideas? What are you putting out there? It looks like we have some from Dominic from Sierra suggests upcoming events. Absolutely, you know, and those can be small things. You know, 3-paragraph. We call it in the trade. We call it an advance. So you advance the story. That means something is coming forward. Here's what's going to be happening on at the end of the semester. And I like that idea that Dominic has here as well in the chat. New equipment purchases. When you got a new machine, whoa, 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 whoa! All right, we got something new that's making us able to do stuff that we haven't done in the past. Partnerships and student profiles. I think we're going to take a look at one of those. I think a little later in the presentation.
Great. And then it was also suggested that the results of your advisory meetings might make a good topic for a blog post.
Absolutely. I think that would be a good way to and remember, one of the things about news is we want to have names, and the people in your advisory committee are going to enjoy the fact that they're mentioned out there. Here they are devoting their time to their community makerspace, and when you give them a shout out, that's all the better. It talks about their business in the blog, gives them something to link to on social media, raises their profile a little bit. Those are nice ways to bring the circle back and pay forward, I guess, a little bit for your advisory committee members.
And several people have mentioned new partnerships and industry connections with the wider ecosystem and how they're getting involved with that. And then Dominic suggested student profiles. If you have students that are involved in your makerspace as student leaders, managing a part of your space, or perhaps teaching, I know that Sierra College just did something about one of their students who taught a class for Girl Scouts on design thinking this last weekend. Those kinds of things where we can really show the impact to students from the makerspace make ideal blog posts as well. So thanks for those suggestions.
Got it. Ron chimes in on the chat here from College of the Canyons, getting information from his completed events. You know, events are a key thing. You know, those are basic news elements that we cover. In my beginning reporting class, that's what we talk about. Events. You know, that's the first thing they do is go out and cover an event. It's the first thing we should be doing when we're writing about our makerspaces.
Exactly. Well, we'd like to thank everybody for your suggestions. We can learn the most from each other, so we really appreciate all of you participating, and I would urge you to go to the website and look and see what some of the other colleges have written about, because that might feed some ideas to your team as well. Okay, so we have some more tips for you as well to build on that. What were some of the things that we came up with, Michael?
Well, we talked a little bit already about student impact, the places where not only our student profiles, our student impact can be similar. At Moorpark College, we've recently had one of our professors give extra credit to students who wanted to complete some sort of a 3D project with our 3D printer. So we've got some student impact there. But we want to make sure, because we want to tie these things back, that we consider our 4 basic tenets in the CCC Maker project: community, curriculum, a makerspace, and internships. And think about ways in which you're going to spread your ideas out around them. And we'll take a look at, I think, at a good example of that as well. We want to make sure that we also link to to articles that are published. If your student newspaper, or if you have a student newspaper, has written something about it, or maybe somebody else has blogged something about it, link to those particular elements as well. The community newspaper here in Moore Park and the Simi Valley has written about the Makerspace effort, and we've got that linked in our little element here for Moore Park College. And you can go to the posts as well. Karen has been a great resource and has given us in her blog posts, the link is here. And this link will be live I guess you may have to copy that link. But that link gives you suggestions on tips for making blog posts as well.
Right, and you can find that on the webinar list. You can find that information here, and we'll be posting this webinar when it's completed. Just wanted to do a shout out for Payson. We use you as an example here, where we pulled from, you got an article published in your local newspaper, and then we were able to do a blog post about that. And show sort of how you do it, where you just take a couple paragraphs from the article, and then you make sure that you cite where the article appeared, and then put the link on it so that people can read the rest of the article.
Our local community papers are really interested, I think, particularly in technical or technologically related things that the colleges are doing. And I think that's an easy sell. You've got to call up an editor or send them an email, but it's just simply a pitch where you say, here, I think this story might be of interest to you, and explain why it would be interesting to them, what news element it has, and why their audience might be interested. And I think you're going to find that they're going to be interested in that. As the local business community paper, it may be tough to sell it to the Los Angeles Times, somebody who works on news at a really high level. But our community papers are exactly where we want to be. Our community business paper is one that I'm just thinking about right now that I've got to go out and pitch, particularly once we have done some additional work with our advisory board.
And our colleges have been very successful when we send out a press release announcing that you received the grant. Almost all of the colleges got press in their local areas as a result of that. So you can work with your PIO to do a press release about some success or some activity that's coming up in your makerspace, and that will help you generate news in your local media, and then you can do a blog post about it. So, Michael, you had some tips about how to think ahead and, just get started, but also have a method for getting consistent blog posts up on the website. Did you want to talk about what some of those suggestions were?
I first have to start with a confession. And the confession is that journalists are rampant stealers. If somebody's got a good idea, a journalist is going to borrow it. They're going to make it their own because, frankly, there's no copyright on an idea. On processes, yes. And here's a great idea. Take a look. Think about regularity. Once a week, you've got to post something. You should post something. Just make it part of your schedule. As we all administer our days and our weeks, we know that we can make that particular thing happen. And plan those topics ahead. The thing that I want to steal is exactly what Sierra College is doing here. Take a look toward the bottom of the slide, scheduling when they appear. Because what Sierra College has done is given themselves a specific goal and then associated that goal with each one of the 4 tenets that we have. So at the end of the quarter, Sierra College is going to have a couple of pieces dealing with curriculum. They're going to have some pieces dealing with, let's take a look what they have here. One per week, 4 per month, 12 per quarter. Okay, that's a great borderline or foundational goal. One from each one of their sites. So they've got multiple sites. They're going to be geographically diverse. We want to think about that kind of diversity there. Then we've got some about students, some about faculty and curriculum, some about our community of our ecosystem, our community, some about our board, their Makerspace tours, their events. So what they want to do is make sure that it's all not the same thing. And then another thing that works well for some of our colleges have been basic sort of interviews where you just do a sort of a question and answer thing. And you can get 4 or 5 during the course of the year out of this. Here's a series of 5 questions. Have somebody write up their answers. You take a mugshot of that person. you post it up, you've got it. You've got a nice post that is got a face, it's got somebody involved in it, and you could do that for one of your advisory board members. You could do it for somebody in your community. You could do that for your staff. You can do it for various people who are involved in your program there.
And you can also assign different members of your team to write different articles. So don't feel like because you're the team lead that you have to be responsible for all of this. You can assign students, and you can assign different people who have a particular interest. Maybe a faculty member would do an article about maker curriculum. Maybe somebody who's helping you run the Makerspace could do an article about that. And the other thing I wanted to mention to you is that when you put it up into the website, you have an option of scheduling. So maybe you have written 3 different articles. They don't have to all appear right then. You could actually schedule those articles so they would appear once a week or twice a week from using the scheduling function. So there's a lot of flexibility with that. The other thing is that you can write a post and put it up, and then if you have some additional information later that you want to add, it's really easy to update it and add more information. So there's a lot of flexibility in how you organize your scheduling to make sure that you're doing regular blog posts.
Absolutely. Sierra College, you guys are doing a great job out there. Little shout
Oh,
out.
Dominic.
Shout out to Dominic, yes.
All right, so we wanted to go a little bit more detail into delegating this task, because we think that that's really a way to get a lot of interesting perspectives in your blog posts. And I think you had some ideas on using student workers, Michael.
Absolutely, absolutely. Your student worker could be your writer. Your student worker could be your uploader. It could be your technical assistant. If you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable about working with the blog system, then assign it to somebody. Write the stuff, give them a photograph, give them some text, and they'll be able to upload it for you, depending on your technical comfortability, that's for sure. And then you've got other possibilities here as well. Ask people who are involved if they want to write a little something. I don't know if I'm going to call it a story when I'm making those sorts of requests, because I think that seems a little bit daunting, but a post about their involvement, the ways they see this as important to the community. I think using your advisory committee or your advisory group as a potential author or potential authors is very good. And make sure that you repurpose your press releases as well. Those kinds of ideas that somebody has written something about you. Let's make sure that we blog it. We've got some sort of we've got it not just being sent out to the newspapers in the community or the news organizations in the community, but also as well. And use your student media. Many of our campuses have radio stations. Many of our campuses have some sort of news organizations. Many of us have television programs or television programs, we'll call them that, as opposed to something that's broadcast, but people who are putting things together. The faculty all the time is using our programs, our programming students, our television students, to record particular elements. You can do those as well. That doesn't. You can write about that after you've done it, but you make sure that you've used those resources.
And I think Sacramento City College is a great example of the students being so involved in the planning of the Makerspace, and they wrote blog posts documenting the whole process of planning the Makerspace and created a video that we were actually able to show at the ISOM convention. So getting students involved, it helps them build their own personal portfolio by having published articles, and you can help them by just reviewing and doing some editing of the articles before they go up, and then it's very much a learning process for them. So it's a win-win for everybody. You can get some articles written, and they can get some real-world experience that will help advance their careers. So the next thing we wanted to talk about is how your blog posts are seen. And using a feature photograph is really ideal to capture their attention. You can see here in the middle of the screen, there's a blog post that doesn't have a photo, and then these other two do have photos. So when it appears on the website, it draws you in more if you have a photograph. Photographs really help you tell your story. So they should be part of your blog post. And I noticed quite a few of you are putting the photographs right into the article, which is fabulous. That's exactly what we want to do. And I wanted to draw your attention to when you're in the back end on the far right column, if you scroll down, you see this item called featured image. And so when you put a photograph in that featured image, that's what appears right here that shows what's going on in that article. So I'd encourage you to take lots of photos and then remember to use the photos image so that it draws attention when you're looking at the website and seeing all the different blog posts that you might review.
And one point about the example that Karen has there on the left-hand side, that's Moore Park College. That's mine before I learned how to use featured image.
Sorry for picking on you.
Well, I've learned how to use featured image since then.
There you go.
One quick thing, I need to go back in and change that one.
Yeah.
About photographs, something that I deal with my students all the time. They always want to stand back and kind of get this big distance photos. Take a look at the examples here. We've got a close-up photo of the young girl putting some sort of decorated glasses on. We've got an overall of a what would that be? A classroom, and then it looks like we've got a group shot there as well. When you're taking photos, get in a little bit closer. It's not necessarily this close, but you want to get in a little bit closer, because I think the most interesting of those photos is the one of the young girl trying on the glasses, and it's because we're up close. And oftentimes those mid-range shots, they've got a lot, but often you've lost your emphasis. So go in, step in, take your photo, and then step back. Don't be afraid to take a nice picture by actually inserting yourself just for a moment into the frame.
And I always tell my clients to imagine that the faces are dime size. So if you have 2 or 3 people's faces in the photograph, they'll all end up to be about dime size. And also, don't be afraid to crop your photos. Now there's so many tools right on your phone where you can take the photo. And I had a photo that somebody sent me just recently, and I actually cropped it down into 2 different images and used both of those images on a post. So you can use those cropping tools to really hone in on some action and get some people's faces where you can see them a little more clearly. And
if you're having trouble with that, have one of your students do it. They know how to do this. If they don't, then they can learn. Tell them to Google it.
So we wanted to share some different examples about what colleges are posting on their blogs. So the first one, it looks like, is Allen Hancock, and that's the example of where they've created a list of questions, and then they've had different members of their implementation team respond with answers about their involvement in making and what they do for the project. So this is an easy way where you can help your community on campus get acquainted with the people that are on the team that are involved in the project, and you can also really personalize what you're doing in your makerspace and the people that are involved. So great idea. Thanks for letting us share that.
And once you've set up your list of questions, you can run them again and again and kind of use the same sort of template to produce that. And you're producing then a new photograph, and it's an easy way to move something forward in your blog. I wouldn't recommend that as the only thing you do, but an intermittent one once every 5 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that, I think that absolutely livens up the process there.
And a lot of college teams are going out into the community and participating in maker fairs and sponsoring their own events, or with their K-12 schools, they're doing events, or they're doing pop-up maker spaces on campus to drive interest in their progress. So all of those are great opportunities to take photographs of people making and doing, and then writing a blog post about it. So here's an example from Hartnell College that's on the screen.
Karen, I wager that every one of us has this photo somewhere in our cell phones for our individual blog spots. You know, we've got children creating somewhere, people creating around a table. We've all got those. They should be up on our blogs.
And all of you wrote articles about student-centered events that you did as part of the seed grant process. And I didn't get all of those directly, and so I wasn't able to post them all. So if yours isn't posted, resurrect that article that you wrote back when we were finalizing all the proposals, and use that article as one of your first blog posts. That'll save you some time. So I wanted to just make sure that you've seen the dashboard. When you sign into the CCC Maker website, you'll see this dashboard. And we have a whole series of webinars that help you with doing your blog posts. There's a link right here at the very top to that's the slide deck that gives you step-by-step instructions, but there's also a whole series of webinars that go step-by-step as well. And then if you want to do things like adding a movie that you've posted on YouTube, or you want some more information about how to add photographs, there are different short webinars go into detail on a variety of the things that you can do with the blog post. There's also some other information here about resetting your password. We've got a whole series of webinars on social media and how you can use that. When you do a blog post, you should be using your social media to promote the blog posts that you've just put out, because that will send people to your site on the CCC Maker website. There's also resources of CCC Maker logos and graphics that you can use. And we've got some TAP updates also on this dashboard. So this is what you see when you sign in. So make sure that you take advantage of it. It's a great way to train people on your team and save yourself some time.
I also want to encourage each one of the colleges to make sure that they've updated their individual pages that represents every 24 days on the CCC Maker site. Some colleges have gone in, added some text, maybe customized their photo. Others haven't. So get out there and do that. Take a look at that piece of the website as well. It's not formally part of our blog, but it's part of our representation of what we are as individual colleges.
Right, because when people go to look at the Makerspaces, they see the logos of all of your colleges, and then if they click there, they expect to see some information about your colleges. So some of you haven't had a chance to do that, but there are webinars in the dashboard that will explain step by step how you add your Kumu map, how you add information about your Makerspace. You can add the contacts for different people that are involved in your space. And if you have multiple locations, there's a way to add those and have them show up on the map as well. So we definitely would like to have all of the colleges have their Makerspace information up. And then at the side of where your Makerspace shows, all your blog posts that are categorized, they will show up when they click on those buttons as well. So on this page, I just wanted to remind you that we've got lots of how-to resources. We really want to support you in getting your information out and telling your story. So we'll be posting this webinar and make these links available through this deck, but there's the step-by-step instructions. There's links to our webinars on YouTube, and then on the website, if you go to resources and go to the webinars tab, and you can just click through to see the huge resource of webinars that are available to help you. So now we'd like to take some questions from the field. If you've got any questions about how to come up with an idea for your blog posts or anything like that, Michael and I would be glad to answer those.
If anyone wants to ask a question, they can raise their hand, and we can make you a panelist so you can ask your question directly if you like, or you can type it into the chat.
Right, I'm seeing that College of the Canyons is getting information about their events, and they're starting to use the blog to promote their events. That's a great idea. And then Alan Hancock is talking about blogging and about their outreach to the community, trying to build that ecosystem so they'll be able to get internships. That's a great idea. And somebody's, let's see, it looks like Rob has asked, you're getting an understanding that more frequent blogs are better. Yeah, it does help to have a system of doing it at least once a week, because then it really builds up the content so that what you're doing at your college will be found when people are looking at your space and for search engine optimization. It also really helps, as Michael said earlier, to have that documentation so that you can, when you're ready to do your reports, you're able to look back, flip through those, and you'll have at least 12 things that you can report on in your quarterly report, and it's all beautifully documented. So I would highly recommend weekly.
Absolutely. You know, what we're doing with our CCC Maker grants is we're doing the making. And that making is kind of amazing stuff that we're doing at all 24 of our college campuses and then our satellite communities. Right, what we're talking about here today is the way Karen started this, where she started talking about everybody has a story, which is exactly what I believe. So we're doing the making. Right now, we need to do some of the telling. And this is a great opportunity to not only get your story out there, to help with your sustainability, to help the community know what you're doing, and to spread the word on the making movement.
Exactly. So Dominic's suggesting that could we add something to the website so that when you post the blog, you'd be able to just push the button and forward it over to some of your social media accounts. That's a great idea, Dominic. So let me check into that, and then I'll be able to get back to all of you about that. You've also asked about Workplace. It's great for us to put links to our blog posts on Workplace so that people in our community can see what's going on. The Workplace is really sort of internally focused, where we're sharing information and communicating with the college teams that are involved in the initiative, where the website and the blog posts are outwardly facing to the external market, because everybody's watching what we're doing. You know, Deb and Solomon and Payson have just come from a conference where they made a presentation. People are really interested in what all of you colleges are doing, and they're hearing about it from conferences. And one of the ways they can do that is by getting on our website and seeing the blog posts that all of the colleges have produced. So it's the blog post is kind of not only for your local ecosystem, but it's actually positioning CCC Maker and showing how we're really changing the way you define education by incorporating making to everybody across the nation. You're definitely a model.
Karen, we've run over our time limit of 20, and it looks like they're getting ready for the next panel in the room.
That's right. So I'll stop sharing, and then Deb, is there anything else that we need to wrap this up with? I can't hear Deb. You're on mute, Deb.
Hi, yeah, no, I'm here. I just took our video off because we're moving around as another panel group is coming in. No, this all sounds fabulous, and I really want to thank Michael. We were just talking, Payson and I, about how great it is to feel that people within our community are now stepping up and offering their expertise. Mm-hmm. It's really comforting to us, because we ultimately don't want to feel like we're the only, resource out there. We know there's so much talent and so much expertise in our community, and we just really want to give everyone the opportunity to share and contribute. So thank you so much, Michael. And
yes,
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And
thank
Karen,
you, guys.
Thank you so much for giving us all of this great guidance.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. And, contact us directly if you have any questions. And again, Michael, really appreciate you being a panelist today on our webinar. And thanks to all of you who participated and asked your questions and are letting us use your examples of blog posts. We sure appreciate it. It's awesome what all of you college teams are doing.
Thanks very much, everyone.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.